Hi, it's AMERICAblog editor John Aravosis here today to talk to you about Jared Kushner, Chuck Schumer, Hillary Clinton, and the Russians. Kushner on Monday of this week spoke before the Senate Intelligence Committee. Afterwards, he came to the White House and gave a quick 2-minute talk to the press where he said, "I had no improper contacts. I did not collude with Russia." And then he added this, "Donald Trump had a better message and ran a smarter campaign. That is why he won." Now, before we delve into the error of Kushner's ways, let's look at an unrelated event that happened that was very similar in my eyes. Senator Chuck Schumer, the leader of the Senate Democrats, this weekend started leaking information that come Monday, he was going to talk about a new Democratic plan for the future, to give the Democratic Party a new direction, a solid direction for the voters. Well, what Schumer said when he talked to the Washington Post about his new plan, he said, "When you lose to somebody who has 40% popularity, you don't blame other things, Comey, Russia. You blame yourself." A lot of people took that to mean that Schumer was blaming Hillary Clinton for the election loss. I thought it was interesting that Schumer saying, "Let's not blame Russia for the election," at the same time that Jared Kushner is saying, "Don't blame Russia for the election." I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, first of all, let me sort of just say for the record that obviously Russia had a hand in the election. Hillary Clinton would have won this election if it wasn't for Comey at the FBI and the Russians stealing the emails of the DNC and leaking them drip by drip by drip and basically ticking off whatever remaining voters there were against her. So the confluence of the two events, I think, absolutely cost Hillary the election. But I think Schumer also has a point in that obviously this is an election Hillary should have won. Donald Trump was such a bad candidate and such a bad man. What was he at, 40% approval ratings more or less? Even less, actually. There's no way that Donald Trump should have won the election unless we were running a corpse against him. And he did win. Now, he didn't win the popular vote. Hillary won that by 3 million, but he did win the electoral vote. And more importantly, Hillary should have gotten, any Democrat should have gotten more votes than just 3 million more than Donald Trump. It should have been a landslide, and it wasn't. Now, why? Well, look, obviously Comey had a hand. Obviously the Russians had a hand. And a lot of people are talking about voter disenfranchisement also having a hand. That the Republicans cheated. The Republicans passed a lot of laws trying to stop minorities from voting, traditional Democratic voters. And all of that's very true. But it's also true that Donald Trump was a horrible candidate and Hillary should have won by larger margins. Now, why didn't she win? I think it's a little unfair to say that Hillary didn't have a message. If anything, I would argue Hillary had, I think, too many messages. I remember talking to a reporter for a top publication about a month before the election, and I said, you know, can you name sort of 2 things that are key planks in Hillary's plan? And he laughed and he said, no, that's the problem. Now, I'm not saying this reporter didn't know what Hillary stood for. I'm saying that when you talk about Donald Trump and you say, what did Donald Trump want to do before the election? You said he wanted to ban Muslims and he wanted to build a wall with Mexico. Those 2 things were clear. Ban Muslims, build a wall. Everybody could say it. Now, these were horrible ideas. They were racist ideas. They were discriminatory ideas. They were costly ideas. But you knew what they were. With Hillary Clinton, I think it was very difficult. Even now in retrospect, I could come up with the, helping on college tuitions, but that was kind of Bernie's idea. Minimum wage. I'm really hard pressed to come up with the 1 or 2 policies that defined her campaign. With Trump, you can do it. And I think that was a big problem for her. Now, the question arises as to why Chuck Schumer is being so harsh this week on Hillary with the election. I suspect it has a lot less to do with Schumer having any personal pique with Hillary as it does the latest polling. I am sure that Schumer looked at the polls and he's finding that a lot of people, even though they're not sure about Russia, they feel like that's the only message Democrats have. They have a message that is anti-Russia. They have a message that is anti-Trump, but they don't really know what Democrats stand for. And I think that's smart of Schumer in the sense that obviously, we don't give up on Russia. I think it's far too important to our country. It's too important as far as what happens in 2018 with the next election, when we know the Russians are going to try to cheat again. And frankly, they're going to cheat even more. We know the Russians broke into our voter rolls on a number of states. What are they going to do in 2018? Are they actually going to change names on their voter rolls? Who knows? But I think we ought to be seriously concerned about that. Secondly, clearly the Russia issue has hurt Trump hard. If you are strictly a partisan and you strictly want to stop Trump from doing as much damage as possible, you want to weaken him. You want to weaken him in the eyes of the public, weaken him in the eyes of Congress. You do that by using an issue like Russia to hurt him, to keep him off his guard. Now, I personally think it's more than that. As I said, it's not just politics. This is a horrifically important issue. As an American, as a patriot, to use the Republican language, you just cannot accept and just roll over at the idea that the Russians or any foreign power, especially an enemy in the United States, is going to try to interfere in our election. You can't accept that. But also, as a partisan, you don't give up on an issue when it's working. So I don't want to give up on the Russia issue, but I think Schumer has a point in that it would be good for Democrats to come up with a united message. For example, healthcare reform. Well, what do Democrats want to do? There isn't a lot of talk about that, is there? You know, we know about the Republican plans. We know the Republican plans are going to double the premiums. They're going to, God, more than double the deductibles from $5,000 to $13,000 annual deductibles. It's crazy under the Republican plan. But what do the Democrats want to do to fix Obamacare? Even I can't tell you that. Look, in the end, you've got to stand for something. Russia's important, as I've said, but Democrats need to have a coherent, cohesive, unified message about what we're going to do better than the Republicans, how we are going to help the country, how we're going to help people trying to get a job, people trying to keep a job, people trying to get higher wages, people trying to get affordable health care that actually covers the kind of illnesses that they have. Republicans don't offer solutions there. Democrats do. So it's not crazy for Chuck Schumer to say what he said on Monday. What worries me is, as I said, I think it was a little too harsh, but I get the direction he's heading. Democrats need to have a plan for the future. They've got to enunciate it better with the American public. And I think the Democratic better agenda, as it's being called, is the right way forward. It's just a matter of finding the right messaging that we're not eating our own. I'm John Aravosis with AMERICAblog. Thanks for listening. Please, if you like my video, click like, click forward, click share. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to my feed. If you're on Twitter and Facebook, share this. Help us keep the resistance strong, and thanks a lot for listening. Have a good night.